All right, folks. Well, good evening. Welcome into our first virtual ACHA town hall. My name is Dave Kurtz. If we've never met, I am the Assistant Director of Hockey Ops. So basically that means that everything that Craig and Mo don't want to have to do, I end up doing, which is why I am once again being tech boy for these Zoom calls. So couple ground rules, couple things we want to go over, and we'll jump right in. First one is this is being recorded so that we have a record, both for transparency and for people we can hunt down, and things like that. So just to let you know that, so we'll be keeping that. We'll do some editing of it in the front end because it was recording. Obviously, we just don't want dead air, but we'll then post it. Also, so this is a webinar, not a meeting, so it's in a little bit of a different format. I will turn it over to Craig, and then Craig will turn it over to Mo for their reports. If you would like to ask a question, now some of you have sent questions to me already, and we've banked those so that we can answer them as we go. But if you would like to ask a question, on your bottom taskbar, you'll see two little talk bubbles and Q&A underneath that. If you click on that, you should be able to send me a question. The questions will come to myself, and Craig and Mo will also be able to see them, but I will be directing traffic through that. If it's something that is being asked multiple times, I will let you know, have it be answered, and then make sure that you guys know that it has been and that that is, to try to keep it moving so we don't have 15 people asking the same question. If it's something that is not within the purview, I will probably say to you, hey, that's something we either A, need to take offline or get more information, or B, that's coming up at a different different town hall. Specifically, that next, or on the May 31st at 7 p.m., there will be a town hall for the budget, where Jim Martin will be bringing the report that he would normally be bringing if you were at Naples a couple weeks ago, if we had that. So I am going to ask right off the bat that if you have financial questions, to not put them into the Q&As unless they somehow directly relate to what Mo or Craig are talking about, because that will be the forum where it will be the only topic, which is, again, 7 p.m. Eastern time. We'll have another webinar, same thing that you did for this. And Jim will be Martin, our treasurer, will be bringing his report to us and answering questions. So I'm going to turn it over to Craig. And again, you can just send me questions. If you do have a problem, you can send it through a chat to me, and I'll try to help you out as best I can. So, all right, guys, thanks.
Great. Thank you, Dave. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Zoom webinar meeting here. Thank you for joining. My name is Craig Barnett, the Executive Director of the ACHA. I hope you and your families at this time are staying well and staying safe. This is just completed my second year in serving in this capacity, and I'm very humbled to be working with the ACHA membership, and certainly looking forward to the planning for next year and so forth. Tonight is an opportunity for us to present our end of year reports to our membership. We will review this past year and certainly talk about updates and plans to our membership here for the 2020-21 season. You should have received our Executive Director reports and our Director of Hockey Operation reports through one of the email invitations earlier. We also have them on the website under membership information, if you haven't had a chance to look at them in advance. So what I'm going to start with my report, I'm going to start with what I'm guessing probably three of the top questions that our membership may have. Some of the information I'm going to talk about was not necessarily put into the report itself. So number one, I think always is financials. So to Dave's point, what we did was we set up a town hall meeting that Jim Martin, our treasurer, will be running 2 weeks from tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern time. He will be able to go into the weeds a little bit more on the finances from this past year, which is not complete yet. And we will be sending out that invitation and details sometime early this week, so you can get it on your calendar. Some of the financial items I just wanted to briefly talk about was the big one that we've been waiting for quite a while now, on the 2019-20 budget is the reimbursement, not necessarily reimbursement, but the grant money from the state of Texas for the national tournament in 2019. We still have not received that yet from the state of Texas. It usually takes a while. And from what the city of Frisco were telling us, they're in touch with them every week as they host a lot of events, and everything obviously is just being pushed back a little bit during this COVID-19 situation. So we're anxious for it. Jim will talk about that and what that means. We're kind of operating on borrowed time a little bit right now, waiting for that check to hit the bank for us. So once it does, Jim will have the opportunity to talk to you about the budget. Player eligibility is probably a common question right now. When we look back at the spring semester and what colleges and universities were doing to offset the COVID-19 situation, they were doing a lot of different things, for us, for their students and their schools to come to completion, including giving students the option for a pass-fail type of grade. So Mo is going to cover that. We have talked about a plan to roll out to our membership how eligibility for player eligibility is going to be handled. Mo will cover that in his director of hockey reports. I know that's a common question right now, and we want to make sure our players, our student athletes are doing the right things to be eligible. And again, Mo will talk more about that. Obviously, the big elephant in the room is this COVID-19 situation, and how's it going to affect the 2020-21 season? And that's obviously everybody's looking for that crystal ball. And it's not out there. It's, as we know when we're watching the news every night and reading reports and so forth, it's very fluid, continues to be very fluid. There's certainly some maybe light at the end of the tunnel with the slow rollouts going on right now. But from our perspective, what we want to do is talk to you a little bit about what we've been meeting on for the last month. We've been having weekly meetings talking about the 20-21 season and contingency plans for our membership. What I want to express is that right now, as we sit here today, May 17th, we are planning a regular start to the season. Right now we want to make sure we have our plans and procedures in place as if we are going to start in September. So when we talk about declarations and registration and how dues will work, right now, we're planning on a full season next year on September 1. That's a best practice. As things change officially, as schools are making more decisions based on their fall semesters, we will then, if we need to change, we will then look at our contingency plans and be able to react. We have a board meeting coming up this week. Paul Hebert, our president, has called for a board meeting to talk about what we normally do, but this will be a big topic of conversation for us, Mo, Dave, and myself, to update the board on what we've been working on for contingency plans. We will continue to follow the CDC. It seems like we've been following the CDC website, for years now. It's an everyday occurrence, many times a day, for us to stay on top of things. More importantly, we're also following the local government, the state governments, and what they're doing. We're following the higher education plan. There's lots of resources out there. The colleges and universities are very confused, as a lot of us are. When is this going to restart? Obviously following the NCAA too as a resource, and other sports associations. From an ACHA perspective, we are not necessarily setting the plan. The ACHA, what we need to do is we need to be prepared to react to how the situations roll out this fall. But we're not setting that tone. We're not in position to set that tone. We're in a position to be a resource and to be able to react to the way this will roll out. So when I talk about the word react, in how we're defining this is the restart. The restart is absolutely dependent on the schools themselves, the colleges and universities that you as our membership represent. They're the ones that are making decisions on their campuses. When are students coming back? Will they be online schooling this fall? Will they be in student this fall? How are they doing the reintroduction for their students on their campuses? They have to answer those questions and figure that out, because our membership is in many different regions, or in many different areas, and a lot of different things are happening at the same time. What might be happening in the West Coast is not happening in the East Coast. So, it is going to be fluid. We know for sure when we start the season next year, it's not going to be the same. It's going to be differences. And we need to continue to work on making sure we have our plans in place with these contingency plans to react to how the colleges and universities choose to bring their students back on campus. Once they're back on campus, and once they get going with that, they're going to have to figure out the how and when sports begin, and that's what we're really focused on. And that's where we also need your help. We need our membership to keep in touch and be engaged with your colleges and universities. What are they doing? If you read some of the periodicals that we're reading every day and we're sharing amongst our group here, every conference, every school has a different plan. Some people, the big hot topic obviously right now is college football. When's college football going to start? Why? Because it brings in a lot of money. Why? Because we're missing sports, and it's a great sport. And it's one of the first college sports that start the season. And when you read these periodicals and interviews and so forth, you'll see half the people say we're planning on it, we're going to have it. And some people, or some conferences and some schools, are saying I wouldn't bet on it. So we need to continue to follow that, and that's where we're going to need your help. What we have done is created these contingency plans. We got it down to about 8 right now. I can't even tell you how many contingency plans we started, but what we're doing really is just putting the foundations around these plans, just the parameters around the plans. From there, we have the basics in place, and dependent on the types of restrictions that we may have to use based on what the schools and colleges choose to do, and they're making those decisions on base what their states and local governments are telling them they have to do to reintroduce the students on campus and so forth, then we will need to implement and work with our commissioners to roll out that type of plan. And that's a reactionary type of thing. We feel being proactive now, dealing with these contingency plans, just like every other sports association are doing, the more proactive we can be right now, the less reactive we're going to have to be when the time comes. Situations that we need to consider that we need you to be engaged in as well is, your ice rink situations. How is this all going to affect our ice time? The colleges may be ready to go. We may be able to have sports. What's your rink situation, your home rink situation? That may be different than what's going on at the college level if you're using an off-campus rink. The mass gathering restrictions. Are we going to be limited to how many people can be in one place at one time? Will this happen in the middle of our season? Will this happen at the beginning? All these factors that I don't need to really go in the weeds much more on are things that we continue to talk about every day. So once we have our foundations in place, we will bring our commissioners back into the conversations with this, and that's where the commissioners are going to need their respective membership help to fill in those logistics. And those logistics that I'm talking about are, if we start in November, if we start in September, whenever we start, has that affected the minimum amount of games required, for the national tournament? Has that affected how our rankings work? Does that affect AQs? All those things specific to the division are going to need to be ironed out by membership with the leadership of our divisional commissioners and our vice presidents. So that's where we are right now. I just want to talk a little bit about some of the different starting dates. If our regular starting date will not be ready to go in September. We immediately looked at and talked about when is the latest time that we could actually start next year, where we could have a productive season for our members and our student athletes. And we felt that January 1, if we can't start by January 1, and perhaps the contingency plan number 8, which none of us want, perhaps we may not have a season, and that's the worst case scenario. We have to be realistic here when you talk about contingency plans. The best case is we start September. The absolute worst case is if we don't start by January 1, we may not be able to get the season off. So let's take January 1. If we start January 1, what does our world look like? Where are we? How can we roll the season out? Again, we have to ask those questions about the rinks availability. We have to ask the questions about minimum amount of games and how it affects our different leagues. We're going to have some schools starting at different times than other schools. And how does that affect our leagues? How are our league leaders dealing with that? How are our divisional commissioners? What can we do? What type of plans do we have to offset different starts? So we're spending a lot of time on that, and we will continue to communicate this to our membership, to our divisional commissioners, people that are on this, our membership. We need to be engaged in this. So please tune into your schools, continue to monitor what's happening there. What are they thinking about, starting school on campus, in person, when will sports start type of thing. That's very important. One of the other areas that we are looking at for contingency plans is right now our national tournament in March is in Boston. What if we start January 1? Is there an option for us to push our national tournament back? Before we figure out with our membership, if we choose to do so, we need to know if that's a possibility. So happy to report that New England Sports Center have indicated to us if we wanted to, we could push the national tournament back in April. That would buy us up some more weekends through the months of January, February, and March to get more games played, to have a better idea of where teams stand for the national tournament. So we are really looking around every corner and trying to understand what our possibilities are and options are. Again, we encourage and hope our membership, the people I'm talking to right now out there, our team reps, our GMs, our coaches, are having conversations with their respective schools and keeping track of what their plans are. So speaking of communication, one of the other areas that we want to continue to work on and improve on is just that communication. We'll take this town hall meeting, for example. We have a new registration process that we rolled out last year. And as you know, we definitely had some bumps in the road. It's a two-step process. Some people didn't know that and so forth, but it's a much more effective system for us once we get it up and going, and ironing out those hiccups. We spent a lot of time last winter working with USA Hockey on smoothing out those bumps in the road. So it's going to be streamlined to get this year. Even more so, there's huge improvements there. Mo will talk a little bit about how that's going to roll out and how that's going to play. But what we want to do with this registration system is we want to be able to communicate better with our membership. In the past, when I came aboard, and from what I understand prior to that, our email list, the way we correspond and communicate with membership, it wasn't very accurate. There's a lot of changeover in positions with coaches, with GMs, with team reps. And because we're so large, 500 teams plus, there was no way of having an accurate list every month to be able to communicate updates and critical information to our membership. What we want to do this year with our declaration and registration process is we want to identify a point of contact person for every team. And what I mean by point of contact person is we assume that point of contact person is whoever registers your team through the USA Hockey portal. Well, that's not often the case. That might be that person's one job. And then once you got the T1 roster, that person's not really the main point of contact representing that team. Sometimes it's the head coach, sometimes it's not. So we want to identify a point of contact person this year. So you will see that on the registration process here, point of contact. If that's you, perfect. You're going to check a box off and say, yes, I'm also the point of contact. If it's not, then you're going to provide us information with who is that main point of contact. If we need to share critical communication with our membership, who on your team should we also send it to, in addition to our coaches and GMs and our list that we have from our T1 roster? In addition, we want to send it to somebody that can disperse it throughout your organization as well. So I'd rather have somebody receive our communication 2 times, getting doubled, or instead of 0 times. So again, that part is going to be on there. And we're also looking for a player rep contact. Sometimes, most of the time, I understand it's your team president is a player. There's times that we want to share critical information, and we want to make sure we're communicating with our members and our student athletes ultimately, or who we all work for and represent. Anytime we share information, we can copy the point of contact person on them. We just want to be able, again, to have a 2-way access to each other from an administration standpoint, to your team, and share information. As we experienced this year with the COVID-19 situation, communication and a timely factor was very, very important. So we want to capitalize on what we learned this year. M2, M3, regional tournaments for next year. Our RFPs have come in, they're completed, they've been sent out to either teams or conferences or hosts or communities that wish to host the M2, M3 regionals next year. So if anyone on this meeting has an interest or knows somebody that wants to bid on the M2 or M3 regionals, please reach out to Mo or myself or Dave Kurtz, and we will get the RFP sent out to the appropriate people. Next year is the 30th anniversary of the ACHA. So it's a very exciting time. We are already starting to plan with a small committee of what we can do to celebrate this great accomplishment. And we have some good ideas in place right now, but we're open to suggestions from our membership. What can we do? What could each division do? We talked to our divisional commissioners about, is there something in place for you to use this year, a game, the website, the newsletters? What do we want to do to celebrate our success? We are going to have a Zoom panel meeting of celebration, with 8 to 10 people that were very much involved in the ACHA from day one. We are already in process. We have confirmation of the 10 people, and we're really looking forward to getting this going. We're actually going to be taping this in about 2 or 3 weeks, and then part of our rollout for the 30-year anniversary, we're going to utilize this, and we should hear some good stories on how this all started. And 30 years from now, we'll have some good stories to share with what we just went through last season. Specifically to the report, my report, I'm not going to cover too many details in here that you're seeing on your screen as that we've shared this with you, but I am just going to touch base on a little bit of it. On the 2020 national tournament, I do want to, on this meeting, I do want to thank our staff. I do want to thank the Dallas Stars and the city of Frisco for their professionalism, their communication during all this time that I referred to. Certainly want to thank the ACHA team members of the 72 teams that qualified for nationals. We're so happy. We're congratulating them on making and qualifying for the national tournament. And then we had to reach out and put the brakes on it because of the situation. And everybody understood, everybody communicated very effectively and very quickly. And, my hat's off to them. My hats are also off, as I mentioned in my report, to our team members that had to resolve numerous issues once the tournament was canceled. That's not a fun job. You know, working on reimbursements and refunds and so forth. And so there's a lot of people that spend a lot of their personal time having to take care of that for their teams. And you know, on behalf of your teams and the ACHA, thank you for those people that took care of that. 2021 in Boston, as I mentioned, March 25 through 30th. In the report, you'll see what the division dates are for next year. And we're looking forward to it. I kind of refer to it as a national tournament festival. You know, the ACHA now has been in one location for 4 years now with all 5 divisions. What Boston brings is the opportunity not only to be in one location, but in one location under one roof. And it's going to be a lot of fun, a lot of people, great hockey. People get to see different divisions. It's about the atmosphere that this could create for our fans and for our coaches and our players to experience that. So that's our big hope, is that this is going to go off without a hitch, and we're going to have a lot of people there and a lot of activity and be very festive-like. 2022, as you saw in our announcement, in St. Louis with the Blues' new practice facility, and also utilizing the brand new rink at Maryville. March 10 through 20. As soon as we finalize divisional dates within that range, we will certainly be communicating that to our membership. Just scrolling up here on my report. I added the marketing pieces in here. I don't want to bore you with Google Analytics. Why am I putting that in the report? Because some people have asked about that. So I thought I'd throw in some of the numbers regarding that. The good thing to see is that there's more and more people coming to our website. Why is that? How does that affect you and your team? Well, the more people we have coming into our website, that helps us with sponsors. You know, people want to capitalize on that and so forth. And, you know, it helps us leverage that type of thing. But some people are just interested in the sheer numbers, and it's there for you. Presentations. We continue to look for ways to tell our story, the ACHA story, who we are, why you should consider the ACHA hockey in schools and so forth. And there's a list of events that we were represented at, that I was at, other people were at, talking about the ACHA and why they should consider us. Our partnerships, obviously very, very, you know, proud to be, you know, endorsed and supported by the NHL. Certainly as the only college affiliate of USA Hockey, that's a huge thing for us in terms of player safety and you know, being part of that national governing body. And then the American Hockey Coaches Association, the ACHA, gives our coaches some valuable tools and opportunities if they wish to partake in that. In terms of our sponsors, you know, what's important for that and for your teams is, you know, these are groups, successful groups, some regional type of brands, some national brands that want to be part of us. They want to, you know, have our membership and our members and our players and student athletes utilizing their products or using them. And, you know, we're making it an option for us. Bear and Rings, you know, Southwest Airlines, we thank them. Budget Rent-A-Car. If you haven't gone to the budget link on our website, you should check that out when you're traveling. We have a corporate account, gives very good 25% discount. It's very effective. Howie's Hockey Tape's been along with the ACHA for a lot of years. Aries Sportswear is our merchandise provider at the national tournament. Warrior Hockey has just been phenomenal. So you watch an NHL game, you're seeing so many people wearing Warrior stuff, using Warrior sticks. We started with them last year with the stick program, and we expanded this year with equipment. You know, you should check out their prices, great quality and so forth, but you're not obligated to use any of our partners, but we're rolling them out to you as an option. ACHA Travel is if you haven't used that yet, that's a neat tool for you guys right now, especially the coaches planning for next year. Our new travel solutions partner, HPN Global, has customized the website for us, which looks just like Expedia or Travelocity, but it's like on steroids. HPN Global is a worldwide travel solutions. Our account manager with them is a former ACHA hockey player. So he understands who we are. He understands the coach's time and the challenges and so forth. So you should just try whatever program you use or company you use for travel. I would encourage you to at least take a look at this and compare prices. USA Hockey, we already talked about. Our two new sponsors this year were Sparks Hockey, which make those portable skate sharpening machines that are now more and more popular. I know about 55 ACHA teams use them, but it's a great product to travel with and so forth. And then Jog Athletics is our preferred uniform partner now, and they give a lot back to the communities. And we have a lot of ACHA teams utilizing Jog Athletics, and it's certainly an opportunity for some of our teams to, when you're shopping, compare prices and compare quality. So I just want to thank our sponsors on this call as well. And turning over now to staff updates. So there's some information covered in there. I want to update you on the M3 commissioner position. We had a committee put together about 6 weeks ago. We posted the position early April. We let that ride out for about 3.5 weeks or so. We started meeting as a committee about a week and a half ago. We got to a handful of applications. We had about 10 completed applications as of this weekend. We conducted interviews last Thursday, and we're in the process now. We've made an unofficial recommendation to our board, contingent on some references right now. So we're well on the way with that process. As soon as anything is completed, we certainly will be rolling out that press release and introducing a new commissioner. On that note, as I talked about in our previous video update about 6 weeks ago, I just want to again thank everybody, our membership and so forth, for all their thoughts and prayers and support of the Kelly family in light of Sam Kelly's passing. For all of us that knew Sam, how big of a heart he had, that he was a huge ACHA guy, and we all miss him. We all miss him deeply. And hopefully the new commissioner will come in at the M3 level and kind of pick up where Sam was trying to get this to until his illness took him away from us. So the other big news that we are doing is our agreement with Point Streak is coming to an end. Our contract ends next month. So in best practice, we started reaching out to some other providers just to see what's offered out there now. We wanted to make sure that we found a product that maybe we could leverage that might fit us maybe a little better. Certainly from a customer service standpoint, that was very high on our list with our interview questions, and we interviewed probably 3 different providers. We are going to move websites. We are going with a new vendor. There's a group called Integrass Sports. Integrass itself is an integrated software solution company that specializes mostly on the back end of the websites. They are actually the team that worked for USA Hockey to develop our new registration portal and so forth. That's all tied in with Safe Sport. It's all tied in with background checks and so forth. So they're very slick on the back end, and they do a lot of front end websites for national governing bodies. You can see a picture of our template right now. This is not official yet, but we moved along pretty well. We have partnered with Integrass Sports. They also do the websites in the back end for USA Cycling, USA Football, USA Water Sports, USA Triathlon. They're very big with the national governing bodies, and certainly a partner with USA Hockey. So we're excited about this. It's a fresh look. It's a fresh brand for us. It's going to integrate a lot of things under one umbrella now, including our registration, as I mentioned, and everything else. We have gone in and gathered up our historical data from Point Streak. We are ready to be moving forward here, hopefully rolling this out by the end of June. The big factor with all this too is when we negotiated the contract, they are going to also be offering here, now that we've made this announcement to our leagues and our teams, the opportunity to use their website as well. They will be offering the same prices that Point Streak offered our membership. So it will come right along in the same number. If you choose not to make the move, that's totally your call, no problem. But if you're looking to move along with the ACHA, this is a good product to look at. So we will get information to you regarding them if you have questions about taking a look at it. Again, the pricing will be the same of what you're paying with Point Streak right now. And this is a pretty cool company, and it's going to look good, and it's going to be very fan friendly. And we hope to use that as leverage as well. Turn the page here. So my goals from this year basically are put there on paper. Obviously, it becomes very fluid, but certainly, you know, my number one goal is that we're going to have a great 20-21 season. We're going to be ready to react the way we need to react based on the situation come this summer with what decisions the colleges and universities make. We want to continue to provide communication, enhance it, improve it. We want customer service to be one of our top priorities when we're talking with memberships. We want to have a great celebration of our 30-year anniversary and get input from our membership, how we can celebrate that. We're streamlining the USA Hockey ACHA registration process. We feel very comfortable about that. Mo and Dave and the tech people at USA Hockey have been wonderful to work with and take our feedback and look for solutions for us. You know, we want to continue nurturing and cultivating our partners and our sponsors. That's very important because that also is tied to revenue source. We will put together an ad hoc committee. There seems to be people inquiring about the potential non-tournament bound division. We looked at that last year. We had a couple of meetings with a group, and then it kind of went sideways. But there's an interest from our members to at least look at that again. So we will create an ad hoc committee and take a look at that. Certainly brand awareness is very important to me. This is a great story that we have with the ACHA, great opportunities, and we want to sell that. And for those of you that have ever heard me present, one of the most powerful, I think, marketing pieces of the ACHA is when you look at the top 25 universities in the world by Newsweek, how they rank them. 17 of the top universities in the world are in the United States. 14 of them have an ACHA hockey program. That story needs to be told. And, you know, we want to now look at the national tournament in Boston and moving forward, and need to start leveraging our brand and monetizing our national tournament through the broadcasting arm of the ACHA. So those are my goals for next year. I'm sure we'll be adding other ones to it, but that's kind of my wrap right now. I would like to congratulate everybody that's on the call. That you know, we have a lot of winners with Coach of the Year and Player of the Year. The Community Service Awards were just announced, and congratulations to everybody there. Certainly the academic All-American teams. Kudos to our student athletes that are pulling in those grades while playing a sport that's as demanding and competitive as hockey. Finally, I'd like to congratulate all our seniors and our graduates. It's a unique time. You know, a lot of classes and a lot of games ended before they knew it was over. And but congratulations to them. Wish we were watching them walk across the stage. But you know, everybody on this call had a big part with the success of our student athletes, and I congratulate you as well. So at this moment, I would like to turn it over to Mo, and Mo is going to present his report, and then we'll follow that up with a question and answer period.
Hello, everybody. going to put a screen up here for you. Tell me if you can see it. That would be great. Or Dave, send me a note if you can't. Before I get into my actual report, I wanted to provide some resources for everybody during this time. Things that we're using, things that we're checking out. And so if you have your camera available and you want to take a snapshot of the screen, that would probably be a good idea. I can also try to send this out afterwards through our list. So the first thing I wanted to talk about were some web resources here. The first one obviously is our website. So we will continue to put anything specific related to COVID-19 up here that we have. Obviously we have general info on here. We'll also be posting registration updates and coaching certification updates, which I'll also talk about in just a little bit. But obviously we're trying to keep news up here. I would say you should probably be looking at our website on a daily or every 2 or 3 days basis right now. Obviously we're waiting for a lot of information from schools and to hear back from some of you folks on what's going on, and it would be helpful if you did that, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But the situation changes daily, so what we're thinking and what we're planning. We meet every week to talk about the latest updates. We meet every week on the website stuff. So we're meeting every week and discussing all of these things, but they change weekly. So we've been updating our contingency plans as we go along. But when most of the point people will be the commissioners once we start distributing this, because there will be decisions to be made on divisional levels. So and they've seen the contingency plans. They've seen some of the planning considerations that we're taking into consideration, because they just need to, and eventually this will all get communicated out. Obviously there's a board meeting coming up, and a lot of this will go in front of the board as well. The CDC, obviously we're checking here every day to see what the latest is on the guidelines. The guidelines affect what your school is going to do. So it's important to kind of understand, what those guidelines are. I'm getting feedback I'm getting somebody saying there's noise, but I don't really have any noise in my house right now that I can hear. Everybody has departed, so I'm not sure where that's coming from. These recommendations that are coming across here will drive a lot of what your schools are doing from the CDC, so make sure you're checking into this site. The next site is the National Institute of Health, but this is more about research and testing updates, but it's a resource if you want to find out what the latest is on vaccines and that sort of information. So I included it. The NCA is a big one for us because we can see what other programs are thinking about and what the NCA is recommending, what they're thinking about. And I'll be honest with you, this site changes every day also. There are new posts here every day about what the different divisions, it looks like right now are kind of not on the same page. So if you go here and you take a look, you'll get an idea of what some of the athletic thinking is around the country by looking at some of the posts on here. And we look at it as a resource in our discussions and our weekly meetings. So good place to go. This one's interesting because it's the Chronicle of Higher Education, and the page I've provided to you from them is actually a list of schools and what their current plans are. It literally has a list that you can download, you can export it, and it tells you on that day what schools are preparing to do. I will tell you that this is a site that changes every day. The other day, the school's planning to be back in session completely and was about 65%, and then dropped to 64 the next day. So that doesn't mean those schools aren't going to be back online. It means they may have gone to we are waiting to decide position. I know that some schools are looking at June 15th as a big date for decision making, and I think we're going to see a lot more information developing over the next few weeks. You can also see what schools are contributing to the fight in terms of research. Maybe your institution is doing some research on this or trying to help in the fight against this, and that's not a bad thing to know, and it's not a bad thing for your teams to maybe publicize as part of the effort here. And then you need to keep in mind that these are academic plans that are on this site, so the athletic and student activity plans may be different from what you're seeing on this site. So I would caution you that it's not necessarily all the information, it's just the information that we have. And then finally, you'll see I put your school's logo here. This is the most important one you have right now. You must contact the department that oversees your program and be in touch with them. You have to be in on the discussion with what's going on. So we need you to make sure you're on any mailing list that your school is using for notifications. I know that many of our schools, the people that are involved in our ACHA programs work for the school, so they're probably getting that. But we have a lot of programs that people don't have a .edu email, and they're not getting emails from their school about what's going on. So you need to contact someone and let them know that they need to let you know. And then when you do get information, we would like you to send it to us and let us know what is the latest that you've heard, because this will be key in our planning moving forward. As we have these meetings every week, we can say, this school sent us this information, this is what they're talking about, and we can put that in the mix. So it's very critical that you get us any information that that could help us in our planning and getting our season back on track. And once again, just keep in mind that academic plans that you're hearing about may be different from athletic and student activity plans, okay? As I get into my report, the very first thing, I want to thank all the staff, because they worked very hard at the end of the season to create a national tournament that ultimately we couldn't be at, but they worked very hard. And right now, they're all working very hard with us. Normally this would be a little bit of a time when our commissioners and everyone could sit back, take a little breath, deal with the issues that come up. But right now it's sort of all hands on deck. And so we're sort of pushing forward, and they're going above and beyond right now. So we need to make sure everybody knows that and make sure you're thanking them for doing the work. Okay, eligibility, this is a big one. So at the end of last season, our 460 plus teams, 461 plus teams, all did something different at the end of the season when it came to getting students. Obviously it's just ending now, but they all made decisions that affected the way grades were reported and how they're going to be reported at the end of spring here. The problem with that is that we just simply do not have the staff to go through all of the scenarios that I've heard about and figure out who's eligible and who's not by going through what is reported to us. We simply don't have the staff. It's just not possible. So what I suggested, and I've gotten approval to do this, is that at the beginning of next fall, if we start in the fall, this assumes a fall start, and you should move everything a semester forward. If we don't start in the fall, you should consider everything to be moved a semester forward. So essentially, anybody who has eligibility remaining at the beginning of the fall will get a hall pass for the fall semester. There's just no way for us to track down everything, and what it will mean if we start to declare players ineligible because we don't understand what happened is that we will just be dealing with appeals and challenges throughout the semester. And that's not going to be fair to the season and actually playing the season. It'll be more fair to give players that have eligibility remaining a hall pass. Now, what does that mean for teams? It means that you still have to submit an eligibility form to us. There's a couple reasons for that. One, we want everybody to stay in good habits. So this is a habit that's a good habit. We have to keep it going. We will have teams that are brand new and they need to understand this process. So this gives us a chance to orient them to this process. And then the disciplinary actions for not submitting an eligibility form will stay in place as a result of that. So if you don't submit your eligibility form, you might not be eligible for postseason play. So submit the eligibility forms. The other thing it does for us is it does two things. One, it lets us get data from you on what teams did for the semester, for the spring semester. That'll help us moving forward to understand what decisions schools make. Okay. The other thing, it'll help you as a team to identify at-risk players that you might be dealing with from the fallout from an abbreviated spring semesters. So we want to make sure that those are on the table and that you're paying attention to those. Going into spring, all players will have to meet semester to semester requirements to be eligible for spring. So this will include, did they take the minimum required credits in the fall? And do they have a minimum, did they achieve a minimum 2.0 in the fall? Once again, all teams must submit eligibility forms. Then, assuming we start in the fall of 2021, all eligibility requirements as outlined in the policy manual come back in full effect, including cumulative GPA. This gives students time to get the GPA up over the summer, or in, they will, hopefully they will have attained a 2.0 in the spring, but if they need to pull it up a little bit more before next fall to stay eligible, they'll be able to. So that's the game plan for fall right now and spring of next season. Coaching certifications. I've been on, I talk with USA Hockey a few times a week about different things. One of the things I brought up this week with them was the coaching certifications. As you know, last season, they were generous to us and gave any coach that did not have any certification and who asked for it a level 1. The understanding with USA Hockey is that whatever level you are at in last season, you should be the next level up this coming season. Obviously, COVID-19 has thrown an incredible monkey wrench into that whole plan. So what they are working on right now are several options. One would be obviously extend all certifications for 1 season. The other option would be online editions of levels 1 and 2 with research of 3 still online, and then 4 and 5 they are looking to go to a continuing education module, but it would likely be put off at this time. Then option 3 would be a hybrid model, which might be some mix of extensions and online modules for 1 and 2. And then obviously 3 recertifies online as it does currently. So they do have this on the table. The issue is the USA Hockey meetings are in June. My guess is that those are going to be virtual at this point, and that because they have to vote on all of this, this policy may not be solidified until mid-July. If you're a level 3, if you have time now, I would get my research done. 1 and 2, we'll see where this outcome lands. If the online editions become available, we'll be telling everybody about them. All right, so that's where we are on that, and we are working on it. Okay, so topics in my written report. I don't really have slides for this, so I'm just going to kind of talk through it because I thought I'd be standing in front of you all to talk about this. As I said, the staff is meeting weekly on several different topics every week to try to keep up with the news as it continues. The registration system is seeing some updates. I know that there were a lot of problems with simply the fact that you had to log into 2 different places to do all of this. They are setting up a unified login and registration system for us. So when you log in, you'll be able to access both the portal and the registration side. These are some highlights of some of the changes. We are also going to be allowing teams to do, when they do a declaration, because we'll ask you to do a declaration as part of the registration. Once you do the declaration that you're playing, it will automatically send you your registration information, and you can begin registering immediately. The other thing it will allow you to do is pay your dues right there if you can, or print an invoice that is tailored to your team, so you get it right then, so you can take care of everything right immediately. We were talking about potential eligibility screening. My guess is with that, everything that's going on, that's a really back burner kind of idea. The new system will allow us to do custom staff reports, which we weren't able to do. We were able to generate contact reports using sort of a sideways method on the system, which worked out pretty well. And when we did our original pull from the system, I think 12 addresses bounced back, and those were almost all typos that were in the system. So we corrected those. We have a relatively accurate contact list with at Taylor's suggestion. We have put contact information in a Google document accessible to us, and the commissioners can update it. If you send them current contact information, they can go in and update it to keep that a running, updated contact list. We think this will work better for our communication purposes, and we hope that you'll all get everything. Almost everything we send out is posted on the website somewhere. So if you are not sure, if you're checking the website daily, you should be able to see what we're sending out. And if you're not getting it, then let us know. We have partnered, as Craig said, with Integrass on a new website. The great news is that they are also developing a scoring system for USA Hockey. We have seen demos of early versions of this, and it is it's very intuitive. It won't look that much different than other scoring systems you've used, but the benefit is you will be able to upload your roster to the scoring system prior to a game if you want, about an hour before a game. If you don't, you can score the game afterwards. That works too. It will not let you put anybody on the roster that is not eligible, which means they have not cleared onto your roster. That includes coaches and players. So make sure that you're following the registration procedures for that. We're kind of excited about it because we do think that the way the scoring system integrates is pretty exciting. And it will also integrate with USA Hockey officials' backends. So it will actually allow them to sign off on score sheets and that sort of thing. We spent some time going over the penalty part of the scoring system with them, and we think we have all of our penalty information entered correctly on both the men's and women's side. Background checks, there's a change to the background checks. This is on the website. You can find it under coaches requirements. The new background check system will all go through USA Hockey, but it will still be with NCSI or NCSI. And the good news about going through USA Hockey with this is that last year we had, depending on what state you were in, you may have paid anything from $15 or so up to $100 and some for your background check because of where you live. The new system will be a $30 flat fee for everybody, which spreads it out over because USA Hockey's buying power is incredibly larger than ours. That will include 3 county checks and federal screening. If you have to go over 3 counties because you moved or because you traveled around a little bit, there may be a problem. If you went out of the country at some point, that may cost more because they do have to look into that. These are still due every 2 years, so the great news is if you got screened last year, you will not have to get screened next year. It will carry through next year. Okay. The bad news is you cannot send us any more of the certification letters that we got from, say, your employer who did a background check. Those aren't going to count. You have to go through the same system as everyone. I used to have to do this when I was at a university. I still had to do other background checks for USA Hockey. So it's not an abnormal thing. It takes about 3 to 5 days, they're saying, for the new clearances, which is better than, I think we were at 6, sometimes 6 to 12 last year. You will receive, when you register, our plan is to have this background check information go straight to you after you register. So that'll hopefully simplify it. How do I do this? Where do I go? Once you register, you get that information back. I want to just a little bit about points of emphasis for some of you may realize that we did emphasize at the beginning of the season abuse of officials, and we cracked down on it pretty hard. One of the reasons we're doing that is because we are a USA Hockey affiliate and we're a partner with them. And one of the things that we were seeing was a pretty big increase in abuse of officials. And USA Hockey brought it up in their meetings in December, I believe. And I spoke with Ashley later and said that we were already cracking down on it. So we were sort of already moving in that direction, and they wanted us to, and they may be partnering with us for a new educational program that will focus on abuse of officials. So that's something that we're looking into. But we do want that to stop because we're losing officials. And if we lose officials, we lose the game. So we can't do that. We have to keep officials coming into the game. All right. The other rule is ACHA, or I'm sorry, USA Hockey updated their rules about hate speech and racial slurs, and we're going a little bit farther because we're also looking at some of the sexual harassment types things that are going on. So the current NCAA rule calls for game misconduct when a player, coach, or a non-playing person directs any kind of hate speech at an official, an opposing player, or other opposing team personnel. And we're defining it as an ethnic or racial slur, sexual orientation slur, or sexual harassment. The penalty now will be disqualification, and it will get referred to me or Dave, the hockey operations office, to review and see what this was about, so we can to help us understand and possibly supplement or discipline. And teams should keep in mind that scorekeepers, penalty box operators, box officials, off-ice officials, they're all considered officials. So when you say something to them from the penalty box, you have actually violated the rule. So you need to make sure your teams are aware of that. They really need to treat those folks with respect. We have a lot of, particularly at the M2 and M3 level, we have men's teams that may have women on them. We heard a lot of reports about handshake line comments, and those need to go away, plain and simple. It's just out there. Obviously, our select team trips are on hold, and I can't really talk to when things might change about that, and we will probably have to have a discussion once things get back to whatever the new normal is. I just want to remind everyone that we're given the free hall pass this fall, but I want to remind everyone that that when you ask for an eligibility ruling, first of all, it has to go to the commissioner first. It doesn't come straight to me, because the commissioners have to be aware and involved in this. But I would remind you that if a player hasn't met the eligibility requirements, you're probably not going to get it with them, because we are student athletes, and it's not just about how good they are or how great a person they are. They have an academic requirement to meet, and you should make sure your players understand this. You should help them get there. You should be meeting with them. You should be finding out where they are grade-wise and keep them on track. And then finally, not finally, but one of the last things I want to talk about is in January, we sent out the note to everybody about playing non-ACHA teams. So you are allowed to play a non-ACHA US-based team as long as they are registered with USA Hockey. How do you know they're registered with USA Hockey? They go through the same process you do. So in other words, from your portal, you can print a T1 roster, or you can send a T1 roster to someone. If that team can't do that, it means they haven't met the criteria for that game to be covered by USA Hockey Insurance. It's as simple as that. We're not saying you can't play people. All we're saying is make sure you're covered by insurance, and make sure you're covered by USA Hockey Insurance. Because unless somebody's willing to provide you with their full insurance policy, like we get asked all the time, which we can't because it's not our insurance policy to USA Hockey, then how do you know what you're insured for? The rinks may not be insured, and if a rink is not insured, they need to know it also. So all we're saying is we're not telling anybody they can't play non-ACHA teams. If it's a Hockey Canada team, USA Hockey has a reciprocating agreement with Hockey Canada. Everybody who plays a team up there, whichever team is traveling, has to submit paperwork to us before they play. that paperwork makes sure that the reciprocating insurance is in place. So that's what we're talking about. The reason this is so important, I want to point this out because you need to know. A non-ACHA team this year filed a claim with USA Hockey for a game against a team, and the claim was denied because that team was not registered with USA Hockey. That player and their family are now facing something they never should have faced. If everybody was just, they could still play the game, just get registered the proper way. So we want to make sure that these things are understood by. I get a little emotional because I've had players who have used this insurance, and I know what it means to them. So I really am encouraging you. I'm not encouraging you. I'm telling you, you have to do this, okay? Because it just means a lot when something bad happens. So please take care of this. Finally, my last thing is, as Craig talked about Sam Kelly. I'm not going to go too far in depth here, except to say that he was one of my best hockey buds, my arch rival, the man I learned stuff from, and he will be missed. He will be missed by us all, and we fought until the end. He was sending us humorous messages right up till the end, and I just want everybody to know that he was a big part of the ACHA. Really was. Craig, I'm going to throw it back to you.
Thank you, Mo. Dave, we can go to the question and answer period now.
Mo, I'm going to get you. Can you go dump out to see if we can fix that hum before I stick this screwdriver that's next to my head through my skull? So, all right. So we'll start off with Craig. You had mentioned earlier about the contingencies. We do have a question asking, about what is going to happen in light of some schools, specifically West Coast schools, from where this question was from, indicating that there's not going to be any fall on-campus questions, or sorry, all teams that will be on campus, but that will be not on campus until, say, the spring. How is that going to possibly affect them in terms of being eligible for postseason? Assuming I'm assuming for this question, obviously the January 1 would affect everybody, but that the ACHA would be open for business prior to the January 1 for these West Coast teams, specifically right now.
Sure. I think, obviously this is very fluid, as we said. We're putting together the contingency plans now with a foundation around them, how it affects our operations and policies and so forth. But this is the part that we need to continue to work with our membership on and have our members engaged in the process, with their schools, so we know what's going on and we can then implement the best, roll out the best contingency plan possible, for those schools. This is where we have to be working with our divisional commissioners, because it's going to affect our different divisions depending on where they are. Again, there's a lot of information out there. The whole California state thing is interesting because it first came out that they were not going to have students back in the fall, and that's what the state said. And then you see conferences from California, like the Pac-12 football, saying we'll make our own decision based on our sports. So time's going to tell. Right now we're collecting information. It changes over time. And when the time is ready, and we work with our divisional commissioners, we will have some contingency plans to look at and use what's best for our members. We're going to have those same situations, I believe, in different areas, in different regions, and we just need to be prepared to be able to react come. I think the month of June is critical for a lot of colleges and universities to know what they're going to be doing. and we're staying on top of it. We ask our members to stay on top of it with what their schools are doing and communicate that. If you know of a plan that your school has, please let us know as well, so we can add that to our list that we keep up. But yeah, it's fluid. We none of us can see in the crystal ball right now what's going to happen, and the best that we can do is be very, very proactive right now, and perhaps we're less reactionary when the time comes. I hope I was able to answer that question. It's a vague question. It's a great question, but it's hard to have an answer right now as we sit here in our committee, our group of our operations staff, and now we'll be rolling back the commissioners in on this now that we have a foundation down to plug in those logistics.
Okay. Next question is for teams that have their seasons canceled or suspended due to a university decision related to COVID-19, will the ACHA require continuous membership, i.e. paying dues for 2021 despite not fielding a team or playing a season, in order to maintain their status, namely postseason eligibility in the future years?
Right. No, I think that's, we have, like I mentioned, we have not had a board call since this situation went down. So now that our staff is in a position now to present to the board some different type of contingency plans this coming week on the board call, I'm sure that is going to be discussed, and we will let you know. We certainly want to work with our members, and if it comes to that type of situation, where the schools are telling our members that there will not be sports, including ACHA hockey, then at that time we will work with them and we'll have an answer for you. But we should have an answer in advance of that, because we want answers around all the 7 different contingency plans that we're currently working on.
Okay. Does the ACHA have a plan in place to allow for flexible scheduling and or even unbalanced scheduling if indeed the season is played, but individuals have restrictions placed on them by a university? So what I'm assuming with this question, Craig, is the idea of, let's say that a team from Michigan is allowed to go play Indiana, Illinois, and Wisconsin, but cannot travel beyond that to a state that is more in a lockdown, that kind of thing.
Sure. We're going to have to be flexible this year. We're going to have to be flexible. The important thing is collecting information, collecting data, having some plans in place that we know are going to change and be fluid based on the situation. So obviously the colleges and universities, they're who we look to. They're the ones making the decisions in the best interest of their students and their student athletes. So, if they make a ruling on that and it affects how we normally do our business, then we're going to have to be flexible and adapt to that within reason. But certainly yes, we will react and be prepared based on what the colleges and universities decide, knowing that we could have 100 different situations, with how schools, like I said, in the West Coast are handling things compared to the East Coast and the North and the South and everybody in between. So this will be a year of 30th anniversary, the year of flexibility.
All right. I've grouped together a few Point Street questions or website questions in general, just to kind of hit over them. Is there a discussion of will the news site, which is Integrass, coordinate with the ranking company in terms of pulling scores and things like that? If Mo's still there and if people can hear him, I know Mo can answer that, but I'll answer first, and then Mo, if there's something I'm missing, we could turn it over to you. But yes, I mean, this is a world-class integration software solution on the back end. So there is a plan now that with the new system, they're going to be able to pull the scores right from the website. So that's a huge advantage for us as well. Mo, is there any, I don't know if you heard the question, Mo, but.
Yeah, I did.
Wow, you're loud and clear now, so that's great.
Okay. I changed microphones. So, yeah, we talked to them about this and they understand the need to do it. Obviously, we're not looking at the code or anything, so we don't know for sure. And Dave Dave works with us a lot, so this will be, it should be integrated because we put it on, it's on the list, so it should be integrated. To be quite honest with you, we haven't integrated in the stat side, what we normally call the stat side or the game side, into the website yet. So that's coming up next. So once that happens, then I'm sure we'll have a better handle on all of that.
Okay. So this question was asked, what happens if we've already paid Point Streak for the upcoming season?
It's a good question at this point. That's up to a Point Streak situation. We haven't had, we've had one direct conversation with Point Streak on the switch, so I'm not quite sure what the contract is and if there's how that works. So that's something that we should look at. I would encourage the teams to do that as well. The bottom line is that we are going to be moving to a much better system in terms of also customer service and so forth. With the change of ownership with Point Streak, it was they've been through a lot of change and so forth, as we all know, as a lot more people on this call know. But we'll look into that as well from our standpoint. It was important for us to get this information out as soon as we could to our members, so they knew what we were doing. And it's a bit of a delicate road, but we wanted to make sure tonight that we had this conversation and we rolled this out so you can know. For those teams that have paid Point Streak and wish to switch to Integrass or anybody different, we would be very curious to hear what they would tell you, what Point Streak would tell you. So we're all in the loop on this and we can work together.
Okay. Do we know when the sites from the connection to Point Streak will be cut? In terms of this is in asking in terms of the conference websites. Do we know when we're cutting, which I assume would then cut the tie that their website has with our website?
No, we don't at this point. Our contract goes through into June. So we're under contract through into June. That's why we're making this move now. I will tell you, one of the former positions I had was a league that utilized Point Streak and transitioned to another one about 2.5 years ago. I anticipated these questions, so I kind of was playing around on the internet. That website is still up and live. It's not used anymore, but it's still there. But regardless, to answer your question, we don't have a specific answer back from Point Streak on how it's played out. We communicated as we needed to per our contract, and we're planning on having our website up in June. The new website in June.
I would keep in mind that if you decided, if you were worried that you'd already paid and they're not going to give you anything back, and you wanted to continue to operate that website, you can still, I don't know, they can't ask you for more money at this point because you already paid. So what I would say though is you can still get all your player information in front of people by linking 2 pages in our new website. So it wouldn't be an integration necessarily on your site, although you could pull a page from the new website and put it in an iframe on your page. I know this is like gobbledygook to some people, but you could actually have a page from our new website in your Point Streak website if you integrated it with code. So if you have somebody who can code and can do that, you could still do it for another year and then fully integrate it the following year if you had to do that. But there are options. We want you to come on board with the new site because it'll just be cooler and it'll work better and it'll integrate better. But if that's not an option because of your finances or something like that, then there are other options that we can get the answers for.
Mo, can I ask a quick question here? I'm jumping in front of Dave. Now that you're nice and clear and loud, I think the hall pass, how we're dealing with that, the player eligibility. Can you just go through that piece one more time so our members can now hear clearly?
Yeah, let me pull it up so I have the notes in front of me, and I'll do it that way because there's a lot of information there.
While Mo's finding that, I can just hit one right here real quick, Craig. There's a question of, will there be online training for the new website? And Mo, I believe correct that we will be putting together some training once the site becomes active, at least in our view, for us to be able to look at, to be able to provide them with information to help them navigate the sites.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we can,
go ahead.
yeah, we could do another thing like this and sort of present the site once it's up and running. You know, training wise on that site, there's probably nothing to necessarily train teams on. It'll just be the site itself. The front facing site is designed for two things. One, designed for fans, which our other site was really not designed for at all. And then there's a section of the new website that is resources for our teams. So it kind of separates the fan experience from the team experience. We can definitely walk you through the team side. The other side is more of a information, things are going to pop up. It would be if average fan goes there, things they want to see. But the other side, we can walk you through what's available there. As far as your own website goes, if you do a website through Integrass, most of that support is probably going to come from Integrass, because we'll have access to certain things, but not everything. So just like we do with Point Street, they're not going to give us access to the actual code. They're going to give us access to the databases and things. So that'll be a little bit different. But yeah, we can. I think if we did something like this, it would probably be the way to go, because we'd basically be showing you the front end of the system. Now with the scoring system and the new changes to the registration system, we can definitely do another meeting like this where teams can sort of observe and then ask questions and that sort of thing. We will do a more intensive thing with the commissioners, simply because the commissioners will actually be doing some more groundwork on the new registration site. So
we can record those, Mo, and have those up on the website as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. So eligibility this fall, to go over this one more time. I know somebody asked, a player was trying to work back towards eligibility in the spring, I believe. Well, the world just got great for them, because literally every player who has eligibility remaining at the beginning of fall semester, assuming we start in the fall, is eligible. Okay. If you don't have eligibility remaining, you are not eligible. You can't say, well, I only play. It doesn't work that way. If you don't have eligibility, you have to be within the rules for eligibility. Okay. That does. If you played in, the AHL, you don't have eligibility, so it's not even a question. All right. So you get a hall pass. We just have too many different. We have over 460 schools all doing their own thing right now with grades. It was bad enough before, and we had a couple that were doing their own things with grades. Now we've got over 460, and we have to find a way to deal with this with a staff of a couple. So it's not possible. It's not feasible. We would barely get the season up and running. So we're going to do it this way. You still have to submit your eligibility forms. Once again, that's to keep and establish good habits. We also have new teams that need to understand the process, and this will give us a chance to orient them. You will be disciplined for not submitting an eligibility form. The submission of an eligibility form is often, I know it's often like pulling teeth at your schools, but you kind of have to train them, and you have to get them into helping you. At Penn State, when I coached, there were 50 some club sports that all submitted eligibility forms, and we got ours back usually within a day or two. So it is possible. You're just going to have to work with them. It also helps to identify at-risk players on your part, to see if you need to get them ready for when the eligibility rules come back into place. And then finally, it gives us data that we want so we can see what schools did in the spring and help us to better understand what we may need to do going forward, all right? In the spring, all players have to meet semester to semester requirements to be eligible for spring. This means you had to take the appropriate number of credits you had and passed. You have to have a minimum 2.0 in the fall, and teams still have to submit eligibility forms. In the fall of 21, assuming we start in the fall, all eligibility requirements that are in the policy manual go back in full effect, including the cumulative GPA. Knowing this now, make sure your students understand that if they have to do summer school, take some summer classes, but they got to get their grades up when fall rolls around, okay? We think this is fair. We think it's equitable. We think it's a way to deal with the situation without leaving people behind. So that's the main goal here. I know there are going to be players playing that probably shouldn't be playing because their grades are not where they're supposed to be. But the answer is it's going to be hard for us to determine that among 460 some teams. I would encourage you, as whatever your role is with your team, to make sure the players understand. We're not saying you don't have to make grades. We're saying you better make grades in the fall, and then you better make them again in the spring. All right, anything else that I went through that you couldn't hear that anybody else wants to hear, let us know.
All right. A couple questions that as we finish up the website part of it. We said, as you had mentioned in your discussion, or Craig had, that you have pulled down all the historical data off of Point Streak, so it is ours. I know that someone asked about, is it going to be held hostage like it was last time? No, the data is off the site, in terms of a copy. Will it be loaded up into the new site? Will the historical data be loaded into the new site?
Yes, the plan, we are working with Integrass to get that done. Once again, that'll be part of our stat side work that we're doing with them, because we meet with them every week, so online. So as part of our work, we've already had several discussions about this, and the scope of the data is huge. So we're working on how to handle that and manage that when we do put it up there. And then it should all be there. The problem is that with Point Streak, there was never a unique identifier from season to season for players. So some players are duplicated. Some players have stuff that looks like they have more seasons than they have. It's a little bit of a problem. Moving forward, the good news for everybody is that USA Hockey will start issuing universal ID numbers. So from the time you're 8 years old with USA Hockey, you will have a number that will stay with you for the rest of your life, and that will become our identifier in the ACHA as well, so that we can connect everybody together. There will be some issues with the data. The data is not clean. It is kind of all over the place, and we will have some work to do on it. The work will probably take a couple seasons to get it all done. We do plan to put the data up as soon as we can, and as soon as we're in the system with the stat side.
Okay. Do we have a hard date to communicate the ACHA plan to membership for the 2021 season, whatever that would be?
We obviously don't know right now. We'll have a much better idea, I think, within the next 20 to 30 days. I think June is a very critical month for universities and colleges, what they're deciding to do. We'll continue to work on our plans, and as the summer, as June, the end of June approaches, we'll have a much better idea where we are. And I wish we knew what a hard date was right now, but we are still discussing that.
Okay. Pertaining to the clock rule of eligibility, if a school cancels the season but the ACHA is still playing, will that player lose in a year of eligibility? Since the clock is still running?
So that's an M1 question because that eligibility clock only runs in M1. I don't know that there's been a decision made on that because we haven't actually discussed that in the grand scheme of things. But that will most likely be a division decision at the divisional level. That rule literally only exists at M1 right now. It was for a little while, but it's no longer in any other division. So that'll be an M1 divisional kind of decision.
Okay. I'm going to knock two off real quick, just as a thing, guys. We don't have, we've had requests for the presentations that were made by Craig and by Mo to be made available. I don't see like that will be a problem, the PowerPoints. So we can, if you will post those most likely on the website. If not on the website, we'll send them out to the membership. So over the next day or two. We have had a question. Would it be possible for the ACHA to create a presentation similar to using some of the stuff that's in both of yours, but then also some information about the let me see what it said, the sponsors and stuff for them to be able to show to their club sports department in terms of just for updates as well as to show off the professionalism. So I don't think that would be, I think that would be something that we could definitely look to do.
Dave, one of the other, talking about communication again and what we're trying to roll out with this new registration process, we talked about identifying a point of contact person, and that person's responsibilities would be to make sure that critical or any kind of communication is dispersed amongst their team, in addition to our, us sending information to our coaches and GMs and team reps, et cetera, et cetera. We talked about a player rep, so we can engage with our student athletes, and that's I think the student athletes like that. I think we would like that. We for different reasons, but we also would like to capture a contact person at each team's school, administrator that the hockey program reports to, and if we're able to capture that, then we would be sharing all this information with them as well, which is only a positive thing for all of us.
All right. Is there any assistance or guidance from the ACHA in helping teams recover costs or obtain refunds from the national tournament cancellation?
Yeah, we should know more. Like, it's a pretty general question. So if teams are having, whatever teams have those questions, we could definitely reach out, call us, so we can understand what part it is. Is it travel? Is it like if it's airlines, there are no refunds. There have been issuing credits, obviously, and pushing back the time period that you have to use them. But if there's something else that you're having trouble with, I'd be interested to know what that is, and if we have had any success ourselves on that. We have incurred expenses with the national tournament, the ACHA, all of us, the membership. We have incurred expenses with the national tournament this year that we will not be refunded on. Such as things as the team banners and advertisement banners. Our airfares with Southwest, we got credit back for them. So again, it's a pretty general question. If membership out there is having issues on that, I'd be curious to know what they are, so we could, assist if we could.
Okay. If the season takes place as normal, does the ACHA anticipate a men's Division II All-Star Challenge in April as they did 2 years ago? And this was asked for budgeting purposes for conferences.
I think that's, I mean, I don't think we can answer that at this point because we don't know what things are going to look like at that point. I mean, I think that's a tough question to answer. Obviously, we want to, but I'm not sure how we can even answer that at this point.
We'll make sure that's brought up on the board call too, so we can get some input to our board members.
Okay. Do we have a contingency plan based on the country being divided right now, and with it not looking like it is going to change anytime soon. Obviously, some states are being held to a much tighter rules compared to others. Will you have a plan in place to play without certain schools based on their state location? I think the question is based around what happens if, let's say, only 35 of the states in the union are able to play, or say 70% of the ACHA is able to go and 30% isn't. Is there a contingency plans based upon what's a number?
Well, it's definitely maybe a twofold answer. One, a lot of it is going to depend, within the divisions, and that's why we've, the contingency plans that we're currently working on based on the parameters and the big pieces. Now we will be working with and supporting our divisional commissioners how it relates to their specific division. So that, I think that's where that piece falls in with the divisions. The ACHA ourselves, in terms of actual plans for events that we run and that we rent the ice from a host, that's around the national tournament, and we've already talked about that with Boston and the ability to possibly push it back into April if we all chose to do so, if membership supported that, if we were in a situation that we started very late, that we're trying to buy more weekends for games played. From that perspective, that we control the tournament, or manage the tournament. Manage is a better word. That's where we would come into play. As I said, within the divisions, we're here to support the divisions and help establish, however your division looks come July, August, as we're starting to plan, and we have more information to make better decisions. And from a reactionary standpoint, we'll certainly work with the divisional commissioners as we hope our members will as well. Mo, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think it's important to understand that every division has these game minimums and everything like that. That's not for us to decide, really. It's for once we do have that as a planning consideration, but I think a lot of those decisions will be made at the divisional level when we figure out what's going on. If you have 4 teams in the West that can play, and they can't travel across the country to play, a bunch of other teams, you're probably going to have to modify the divisional rules to let those teams fit into the mix. So I mean, it's going to be hard for us at a national level to make one size fit all decisions. That's why at the national level, we've developed planning considerations and scenarios. But once we have a more solid idea of what schools are doing, what the country's doing, then we can have the conversations in the divisions about what's going to happen. Because a lot of that we shouldn't really be dictating that anyway. It should be the divisions that are trying to do what's best. I don't think there's a one size fit all for all of our divisions for this. And I think it really, the nitty gritty has to be done at the division level. We can do the overarching principles, but the nitty gritty is going to have to be done at the divisional level, because, we could say something, but it probably won't work for every division. So we really have to take that into consideration.
Okay. Is there a concern about students transferring from a college who are not playing to a school that are playing?
Well, there wouldn't be a concern about a player transferring anyway. So I'm not sure that it would be fair for us to say that a transfer can't play. I think, and once again, they could say they transferred for academic reasons. So there's really no way to prove that that's why they transferred to another school. I'm sure players will do that. I think it's a bad decision, because that's not why you're in school. You're in school to get an education, and if you went to that school for the education, you should probably stay there, because that's what you went to school for. To me, that's You know, if you're there because you just want to bounce around from school to school to play hockey, that's just a bad decision. So I wouldn't prevent anybody from doing that because, you know, I don't know that I could prove they transferred just because they want to play hockey. So I don't think I want to get it. I don't think any of us wants to get into those weeds. That's going to be crazy.
All right, Mo, without going into the weeds too much, just because we did have, you know, during your report, there was some audio issues. We just want to make sure that you had made a mention about just talking about playing non-ACHA teams. So if you can just bullet point, just a reminder about the requirements that we have when to play a non-ACHA team.
You can play any non-ACHA team you want that's based in the U.S. that is registered with USA Hockey and can provide you with a T1 roster. That's the rule. That's how simple it is. We did not fully enforce this rule last year, I'll be honest with you, because at the time that everything was happening with other teams that were non-ACHA, we felt that if we actually enforced the rule, we would have blown up the schedules of our own teams. And that seemed like not the right thing to do. So we warned every team that played those games that they were not covered by USA Hockey, and then it was their decision to make. Now we're saying we're enforcing the rule, follow the rule, get the T1 roster, and we have a rule that says 2 weeks. Somebody wrote a new rule that said 30 days out. If I get it the day before the game, you're good. As long as I have that on my computer so that when something happens, and I can send it to USA Hockey and say, cover this, then we have something behind it. So that's what this is about. It's not about keeping teams from playing games. It's not about any of that other nonsense. It's about making sure families are taken care of when something bad happens. It's expensive. Trust me.
Okay. And I'm going to take, if you're on the call, I'm going to take your question and just kind of maybe expand a little bit as you kind of looked at a D1, but we're looking at the idea of if in two of the, or maybe even more, three of the divisions at least, there are auto bids given to division winners for various, whether conference or regular season. And there are requirements about number of teams allowable in order to have those auto bids. If a division in one of the auto bid divisions, if one of the leagues falls below that next year due to COVID issues, will they still be able to get the auto bid?
Look, we're not out to punish teams because of a virus. That's not the point here. So in my mind, and Craig can be my boss if he wants and tell me to stop talking, but in my mind, we would look at what the league, what the membership of the league was before the team was told they couldn't play because of a virus. I mean, to me, that seems like the fair thing to do. We're trying not to punish teams because of something that has happened that's outside of everybody's control here. So, the ACHA didn't do anything wrong. None of these teams did anything wrong. So why would we punish teams based on that? That's my point.
We want to work. We want our student athletes to be on the ice playing hockey, and we're not in the business to put up blocks or roadblocks or anything like that. Yet at the same time, we want to make sure when we talk policies and rules that we're fair and equitable. But this is I think we talked about it in the reports. We're going to have to be flexible. There's going to be a lot of fluid things going on in terms of a lot of these great questions that have been asked tonight. When schools are going to open up? What if we can't start? What if we can't travel? If our travel restrictions are limited? Those types of things. We're going to have to be very, very flexible. And, within the parameters of player safety and team safety as well. We want hockey to take place. And that's our ultimate goal. And that's why we need to continue to work with our members and have you engaged with these solutions.
Okay. Quickly on the non-ACHA real quick, as we had a question about playing US PHL teams. Are they considered USA Hockey teams? Or is that should we request that they just email?
Well, yeah, I mean, the thing to do is to just ask them for their T1 roster. If they give you one, they're USA Hockey registered. If they don't, they're not. I don't follow necessarily all the junior leagues and who's registered with USA Hockey and who's not. Craig may have a better handle on that. But some are and some aren't. So it's, I think, and that's not my job right now. So I don't really pay too much attention to that. I'm no longer recruiting, so it's not an issue that's on my table very much. Do you know, Craig, about that one?
Yeah, junior hockey's going through a change right now too. I know there's some teams leaving the Western States Hockey League, which is an AAU league and so forth. USPHL, I believe, are not USA Hockey, but the best thing to do is, when you're scheduling, ask that question. I do not believe they're USA Hockey, but it's just whoever you're talking to, ask the question. They may have went and registered with both USA Hockey and AAU to build a schedule. So, good question.
A lot of teams did that.
Yeah. Now, just to respect everybody's time as we're approaching almost an hour and 45 minutes, we have 2 questions left on the deck. So I think we're going to close the questioning right now. We'll answer these 2. And then we'll close it up. Please remember that if you do have a question or you have a concern or you have that, you can reach out to any of us. Our emails are on the website, or you can give us a call. If you want to call Mo, call him between 1 and 3 o'clock in the morning. And we'll continue to work to get this up as well as the presentations that Craig and Mo made. Get those PowerPoints up and out to the membership so you guys can take a look at it. So 2 questions left. Will teams be penalized for not participating if the conditions of the pandemic response do not meet the standards that their players deem safe enough for them to feel comfortable to play and travel? Some may have concern of air travel, staying in hotels, having to take up public spaces.
Absolutely understand. And, I turned 62 this month. So, I don't really, if other people think I should be going out and running all over the place, that's my decision. It's their decision also. Every person, I teach safety in rigging and things like that. And our main point that we always make to people is that you're responsible ultimately for your own safety. And if you're not safe, then you shouldn't have to do what you're being asked to do. We always talk about there being consequences. In this case, my opinion would be that if a team doesn't think it should travel, then it shouldn't travel. If a team doesn't think they should stay in a hotel, then they shouldn't stay in a hotel. If it's going to affect their game schedule, pick up the phone, give us a call, because we'll work with you. We just need to know what's going on. The situation is unique. And so we have to be unique in the way we think about it. And that's our hope, is that's what we're doing.
And like anything else, it's going to be a little bit fluid, but we also understand that, call is making the decision at 5 o'clock for a 7 o'clock game, might be a little bit fishy, as opposed to, suddenly there are COVID concerns because, your football team's playing a big game on Saturday. So you call it off Friday night, then we'll look, but we understand that. All right. Last question. And this has to deal with the free pass, and just to bring it up as an opposing view, which we are fine to do. As far as the eligibility issue, I understand exactly what you're stating, but as far as development of a person integrity as a program or institution, how does a free pass help? Why can we not self-police grades?
I think that's a really good point. I'll tell you 2 things about it. One, every team has the ability to put stricter compliance rules in place. For instance, I've had players who had a 1.9 raised. I told them that they not only had to get up to a 2.0, but they had to bring me 6 tests, I think it was, that had a B or better on, and then they could play again. So I can impose stricter guidelines you can impose stricter guidelines onto your player. Was that fair to my player compared to what other players were getting to do around the country? Probably not, but I'm allowed to do that because it's an in-house program, right? It's our program at the university. The other side of the coin is that we have 99.99% people in the ACHA that I would trust to self-police grades. But there's always the rogue team that doesn't self-police. We know that every year because players are found to have played that are ineligible. Also, many teams are not as organized as other teams. So some teams, there's no one on the team actually policing that. So it is a problem. And while I would love to say that we could do that, historically speaking, it's not reliable. It's not something, we're going to get to the end of the season and we're finally going to look at all the players that are coming into the regionals and the nationals, which we do, to make sure that everybody's on the up and up, and we're going to find players that aren't on the up and up. And what does that do then when there's a team there that bumped another team out of competition because they were self-policing? That's the problem. So, and even under our current model, we don't catch everybody. So I'm concerned about that model. I think the way we're doing it is a little bit better because now we're just saying, we understand that's going to happen. We're going to give everybody one semester of understanding, and then we're going to progressively become a little bit more demanding on the students.
All right, so that ends the Q&A portion. Craig and Mo, do you guys have any final words before we close it up?
No, I'm glad. I think we had over half the teams here represented. It looked to me like, I don't see all the numbers, but I'm really happy about that. I do think that if we do more of these, I would hope that more teams would show up. Obviously, I'd love 100%. I mean, the whole discussion over the last few years in Naples has been, why can't we do things online? Why can't we do things online? Well, I would expect, a greater turnout than the 50% we got tonight, if people really feel that way. So if you want to make us know that you feel that way, show up at these and represent the team. I know I'm talking to the people who showed up, but pass the word for us. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I would just like to thank everybody for joining us. Again, the communication piece is very important for us. That's why, for those members that could not be on the call tonight or participate tonight for maybe some other reasons, they are recorded, as Dave indicated at the very beginning. We'll have these posted. Both Mo's report and my report are on the ACHA website under About Membership Info. And also check your emails with the invite because we attach them there as well. We will work on a deck that somebody asked about to include some more of this information in a more presentable way for university administration. That's a great idea. Thank you. And, we will be reaching out and communicating again very shortly with any updates and so forth. So thank you for your time. Stay safe, be kind, and I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, guys. So thank you very much for attending. The reminder that on the 31st, so not next Sunday, but the Sunday afterwards at 7 p.m., we will be having the ACHA budget call. Jim Martin, the ACHA treasurer, will be on. He'll give his report. Like if you have attended Naples, he's done. He'll have a Q&A similar to this at the end. We ask that you register. The information has been sent to the parties for email out. So if you do not get something probably within, the next couple of days, please make sure that you reach out to one of us because somehow the information is not getting to you because it is now ready to be sent out now this one's done. So hope you guys have a great evening, and we will talk to you guys in 2 weeks.